Hello, my friends. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. To continue with the search for truths in our life lessons, we had already on our video before this one, we had looked at how we have to cut up or study the things that are presented to us as facts in order to determine whether those things that are presented to us are actually facts. But we cannot forget one thing that involves at the very root, that is involved at the very root of our arguments, and that is the definition of things, the definition of our subject. And in doing this, we have to look at what is the essence of something. Now, we have to understand what is the essence. The essence is the set of properties or attributes that make a subject or entity, or on the other hand, without which set of properties the subject would lose its identity. Now, this is a very dictionary-like definition. Let me explain. We are going to now go into the essence of what is a person or a human being. What is the definition of a human being? Like, what makes this is not right very. There we go. Person. Right? Now, we are made up of, we have a head, we have two eyes, we have a nose, we have a mouth, we have a main body, we have arms, legs, and whatever else, genitalia, right? Now, do any of these things negate or affirm the presence of a person? Well, let us see. If you cut off the hand of a person, okay? Now, the person has no hand. Is that person still a person? Yes, indeed. Now, is that hand a person just because it's got human DNA? No, it is not. A hand is not a person. If we cut off the foot and we put the foot over here, is that foot a person? Because it's got human DNA, human genetics. Is that a person? No, it is not. Does this person stop being a person because he lost his foot? No, he would not. Now, let me make this a little bit short because people get bored when going through this whole process. I know I do. But if you happen, and let me see if I can move this so that it's a little bit better for you and for me. Okay, if you happen to erase both legs, both arms, that's still a person. But why? I mean, you just eliminated about 40% of its physical existence. How is it still a person? Well, it comes down to this. Can he talk? Yes. But if he was a mute, would he still be a person? So, well, it's not speech in itself that makes it a person, even though the ability to understand some kind of speech, the ability to understand and pronounce some kind of speech. So let's put here, it's the ability to communicate. The ability to communicate with other human beings that qualifies it as a person. One. Okay? It's not necessarily the only one, but a person that is unable to communicate in any way, shape, or form is called essentially to be in a vegetative state. And it is not really considered a person as a whole. So we need to have communications. What else do we need to? When we communicate, we also have to have some kind of logic or order. I say this because, for example, a parrot can communicate. Now, can a parrot create some kind of logic order and say, well, you know, the reason why I called you over is because I need to speak with you? You know, complicated thoughts that require logic and order are also necessary to call somebody a person, or at least the ability. Maybe because sometimes you may decide to speak gibberish, you know, say, you know, windmills, sharks, batteries, you know, and that doesn't mean that you're not a person. It's just that you decided not to use logic, but you must be able to use some kind of logic or order in your communication, right? Now, what else? Is there anything else? Our ability, for example, to, well, using, and I guess I'll put it below this, using logic and order is our ability to solve complex problems and communicate solutions, whatever. But our ability to solve complex problems, because I mean, insects can solve problems. Like if you have an insect here, right, and he's hungry, and there's an insect over here, this insect will find a way to get close to the other insect so he can eat him. He's solving a problem, but it is not a complex problem, right? Lions, for example, a lion finds a warthog, and the warthog is in a hole. And the lion will go ahead and dig until he gets to the warthog and he eats him, but that's not a complex problem. Okay? A complex problem would be, for example, like, well, the warthog is inside a zoo, and the lion wants to eat him, so the lion has to figure out how to open up his door, get out, work his way through the people into the cage of the warthog, open the cage to the warthog, and then eat him. That's a complex problem. Okay? But that's the kind of problem that other species cannot solve. Only humans can solve that type of problem. You can play many ideas as to why we are able to solve these problems and other species are not. But the fact of the matter is that these three essential things define us as humans. But it has, because and we have to understand that, let's not be too simple-minded. When I say, for example, communicate, I'm talking about complex, okay? Complex communications, because, for example, elephants communicate, through sounds, through body motions, etc., okay? But they don't have complex communications such as is necessary to solve complex problems. See, this is the reason why our communications are complex, because we solve complex problems. Okay, so it's all kind of in one little ball. All these three things that we do them at a very high level, much higher than any of the other species. And that is how we define the essence of a person. We can't say a person has, 2 arms and 2 legs and walks upright, because guess what? Some of us have lost use of our legs. Some of us have lost our hands or our arms, or, most of us do not. When you lose your heads, then is when you are no longer a person. No, I mean, it's a joke, but it's also kind of true, because when you become insane, you're considered a person, but you're no longer considered a functional person. You see, there's a little trick to this, where you can be considered a person, but you're not functional, and that's when you go into vegetative states where you cannot respond or communicate, or when and if your communication or logic is all over the place continuously. Because you can have people that have moments in which their communication goes haywire because of whatever reason. Doctors are still looking into it. All of it has to do with the brain, of course. But when you lose that, then you're no longer a functional person. Yet you are a person, because you are still able to communicate. As I said, when you completely lose your ability to communicate and to do any kind of brain functions, people say he's in a vegetative state. Okay? There is a moment in which your brain completely stops functioning, and then they have machines that have to do your breathing for you, your heart. Sometimes that's about the only thing that your brain is able to maintain, if at all. In those cases, when they say the person is brain dead, then the person is actually considered dead. So we have to understand, and we have to come down to this, that what makes the person is the existence of a functional brain. Can we agree to that? Because if they were to open up your skull, take out your brain, and leave everything else where it is, put it with some machine so it would do the lung and the heart action for you, you would not be considered a person. So I think that we are at a place where we can very confidently say that we need to have some kind of a functioning, and I think I put it to where you can't see it. Yeah, I did. Let's put it up here. Brain. Okay, we can confidently say that it is the brain that makes the person, a functional brain, that makes the person a person, a valid human being. It's not the genetics. It's not, because if that was the case, when they cut off a hand, the hand would be a person because it's got human DNA, it's got human genetics, but it is not. The person is considered what is essentially a functional brain. Okay, I'm pretty sure that we will get to a point to where we might learn how to keep a brain alive, and at that point in time we will certify that it is the brain that makes the person. Okay, now whenever the brain, and this is a question for the future, I'm just throwing this out there. When you lose an arm, a leg, your brain goes through some kind of trauma, does it not? I mean, I know that people that go through this, it's traumatic. Now, I don't know, and this is, of course, addressing the futuristic expectation that I have. Is like if you are ever able to transfer your brain to another body or machine or whatever, what kind of trauma will that entail to the person? I don't know. I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just considering it, floating it out there. But the reason why I want to go this route is the following. We have defined a person as pretty much a functioning brain. Now, if you have a functioning brain, the question is, and now we're going to go into this one, what is a man? And what is a woman? Right? Now, people who want to simplify their lives and create enemies everywhere, well, let me not say, it's just people that are simplistic, people that can't see beyond their own personal experience. You have to be empathetic to be able to understand what we're going to go into. Okay? I could be a man, right? Have all my genetics, okay? And I feel like a man, and that's a normal birth. Everybody's happy with that, you know. But I could be born, and it has happened, and it happens, without any genitalia. Nothing. Or the wrong genitalia. Okay? But everything else points to the fact that I am a boy. Now, what do you do in that case? Okay? Do you... Because see, this is the problem. And this is something that people hate to admit. we're looking at the physical. How were you born? Now, let me ask, how many men want to go shopping with their wives for hours? Most men do not like to go shopping. Most men would rather stay home doing sports. Women like to go shopping. They like to socialize. Men would rather be left alone in their little cave. Now this is functioning, okay? Functioning parts of your gender. Okay? I really don't feel the need to go out there and talk to everybody and be friends with everybody. I'm a guy. I'm always been like my own, you know. If I have a club, it's a club to do sports. I don't really want to know what underwear they got, or you know what new diet they're on, or you know. But I don't care. You know, it's just some guys. We talk shit. We talk about everybody else, and for brief minutes, and we all go home to our families or into our little caves. So, in that sense, we are social, but we're half social. We're not really as social as women are. These are things that define gender. These are things that define who I am in a gender situation. Like, how many guys actually like to, I don't know, colors? Oh my God. Is this paste white? Is this dress paste white or lily white? Or I don't know. It's just white. That to me, and that's part of my gender function. My eyes do not perceive, or my functioning does not care. I don't know which one it is, because to me white is white, and you can put a gun to my head and threaten me and you know, to separate two colors, you know, and I can't. You know, I won't be able to. I've never been able to. It's just white. Yeah, you know, you can see tones, like really deep tones, where you say, oh, well, you know, this is almost brown. And you say, oh, well, that's light brown. And I know that's white pastel or white whatever. You're like, oh, shit. But this is more of a woman thing, to identify colors, smells. Now, I'm not going to go into the why. I'm just going to go into the fact that we as men understand that there are functions that we as men generally, because there are exceptions to every rule, generally do not like to do a lot of things that women like to do. And women like to do a lot of things that men do not like to do. Vice versa. So, I don't know if I said that right. But anyways, we're different in the way we approach things, in the way that we categorize things. So, when these people nowadays that are against LGBTQIA, they've created a monster out of them. They're like, oh, well, what's a man? What's a woman? Well, you have to understand that it is a complicated thing, which is based on functions. Defining a woman based on physical attributes is as asinine as trying to define a car by how it looks on the outside. Men know this. A car is, yeah, you know, you like the looks, but hey, does it have 6 cylinders or 4? You know, does it have 6 gears or does it have 4? Does it have the traction in the front or in the back? Now, a car, and I'm telling you, a car, this is a physical thing because a car does not have brains. Okay? Humans do. And I'm trying to explain that what is visible, and this is for the men, what is visible to you is not necessarily what is more important about that car. Does it have a big gas tank? Are you going to use it to travel from here, from New York to California? You need a big gas tank, right? Are you going to carry a big load? So the functions that you're going to use that car for determine what you need on the inside. So we understand as men that what's on the inside, what's functioning on the inside, it's what's important, not what's so much visible on the outside. So the same applies when you talk about gender. It's what the person is capable of functioning with according to the brain, because it is the brain that determines. But hear me out on this. Today you don't like to go shopping. You have never liked to go shopping, right? Now, I hope most of you will, well, I don't know if you want to do it, but I don't recommend this. If you inject yourself with a lot of estrogen for a significant period of time, you're going to like shopping. You're going to end up there. All of a sudden, you can smell certain things that you were not able to smell before. You're going to see difference in colors. And all of this is because you will have introduced something that the brain automatically does for people that say, hey, I was born in the wrong body. The brain is doing a lot of these things. The wiring, the connections in here are different from a regular man. They're still a person, but the wiring is different. And so they have different sensitivities. So it is kind of weird to me, and I think sometimes it's either out of ignorance and I think politicians, because people, I understand that we, working men, working women as well, we're too busy trying to get ahead in our careers, trying to figure out, if I work in IT, I got to figure out new security, new programming protocols, etc. I have no time to be figuring out what the biologists or physicists, what discoveries they have come up with, or what the psychologists have come up with. I have no time for that. I want to get a really short version of what's going on whenever I encounter these arguments. And sometimes they seem too complicated. And it seems to me like they're just a lot of jibber jabber to try to confuse me, to get me on their side. But if I take the time, I will figure it out. Now, and this is a problem. We have politicians, mean-spirited politicians, that have decided to use this argument to split us apart, to say that, well, LGBTQIA, it's in the Bible. And it's like, no, sir. The Bible has made a lot of mistakes across the years, the decades, and the centuries. And we don't need to guide our lives by a book that was written 2,000 years ago, that we will also see in this series that there are a lot of mistakes in the Bible because they were written by men. And whether it was God that inspired them or not, it did not stop men from blending in their limitations and their lack of understanding into whatever it is that they thought that they were hearing. Okay, so let's be honest, and let's be cordial to each other, and understand that you can't say anything about my experience, just as I can't say anything about your experience. But we can come together in understanding that maybe both experiences have a common denominator, and we can look for that without denying your experience and without denying my experience. But this is what I'm trying to look in here. What is the essence? Where is the central point? And this is why we need to understand definitions. And we need to understand that sometimes definitions are more complicated than what politicians and mass media communications are trying to do. They have a motive. They want you to follow them. Say, hey, I'm your Cliff Notes. I will make it simple for you. These guys are wrong. Whenever I hear that, I say, no, I'm not going to follow you, because that is a definition that I would have when I was 4 years old, and I'm not 4 years old. Explain it to me simply, but also show me all the details, just like I'm doing for you right here. I did not tell you that a human being is just a person. I think I took the time to explain to you that, hey, a hand is not a person, an arm is not a person, a leg is not a person. It seems, and I did say it seems, based on everything that we do, that the person, as far as the body, is up here in the brain. You make any changes to the brain, the person changes. You damage certain parts of the brain, the person stops functioning. Then when the person stops functioning, it's usually because the brain has stopped functioning, and at that point in time we say, hey, the person is actually dead, right? So the person, the human being, must be therefore, based on our own practical functioning on the defining when a person is alive and dead, has to be in the brain. In the old days, they used to say it was the heart. They used to say it was the lungs, because when you stop breathing, you die. But they didn't understand that, hey, you can stop breathing and your brain's still going. They didn't know that your heart could stop for a while and your brain's still going. It is only after your brain completely stops that nothing can be brought back. Even with our modern technology, nobody has gone to the point to where the brain stops functioning, is completely dead. The doctors say, hey, this is done, and then a person actually comes back. Okay? Now remember, just because the heart stops, the brain has been without oxygen for, let's say, 20 minutes, does not mean that all the brain cells are dead. Okay? When the brain cells are dead, you can't bring them back. Okay? So let's understand again. Let's not go into simplistic definitions just because it's complicated for us. Let's take the time to actually learn, because this is what it is about. It's life learning. Let's understand also that just like the brain does all the functions, it also does all the little quirks. Like, hey, you seem to be able to do better with the left hand. You do the left hand like other people do the right hand. Why do you do that? It's in your brain. In your brain. And it's not that, it's just something you imagine. No. There's some hard wiring that happens in the brain that facilitates your left-handed facility. And it makes it almost a pain, and to some it's pretty much impossible throughout their life to actually function with the right hand. So the same thing happens, and I deal with the man-woman definition because it irks me to see politicians and mass media using this, what is it, about 3-4% of the world population are LGBTQIA, and that they have decided is going to be the enemy to use in our political battles. This is really inhuman. It is below any kind of dignity, is below any kind of respect for human beings, which is human beings, then man, woman, LGBTQ, whatever, gender, left-handed. I'm going to include that in there just to keep the reminder that all of this is set in the brain. Okay, so let's be gentle with each other, and let's kick out mass media and politicians that want to divide us by making an enemy out of our brothers and sisters. That is the life lessons that I have. And let's also understand that when we want to look for facts, just like here, we have to look for the essence. Where is the essence of whatever subject we are discussing? Okay? And just so you'll see that I'm not just politically based, okay? On my next video, I'm going to go ahead and look for the essence of something that is not necessarily political, but it's also complicated. Stay tuned for the next video.